Oh, please. Sound like it's gonna die. Alright. Time to catch up, because I've been MIA. I've been dealing with a lot of stuff, and just want to catch you guys up, and we're gonna be working on the truck today, so if you're coming along. But most of you guys had saw way back in like February. I moved back to Missouri, so I'm down in the southwest corner, back home. It's good to be back, and it's tough being away from family and all that. I have, anybody that knows me personally, I have a big family. They're probably the coolest family you could ever ask for, and just really supportive, and overall just an absolute blast. Like, my friends, I think sometimes my friends are my friends because my family is so fun, and not just because of me. But yeah, I've been dealing with just a lot of crap, and just life. So I need to get back on the horn with the first gen. UCC is coming up here at the end of the month, and it was gonna be fine for it. I decided, I got the GPS mile-an-hour deal hooked up on my logger, so I decided to go test it out, and I went for a highway run, and really didn't care how it turned out. I didn't care if the wheels came off the truck and it rolled end over end, or I didn't care. So I got on the highway, and we made like 130 mile-an-hour pull at 3,600 RPM, and just ran out of highway. It was starting to get a little sketchy, and so I let out. Noticed that the next day after work I started it and something was knocking, and it sounded horrific. And so after a second it went away once oil pressure came up, so I was like, that's interesting. So I drove it home, drove over to Andy's house. We checked valve lash, and I could stick the whole feeler gauge pack in between, like, checking valve lash. And I took a big gulp, and I was like, holy crap, like, that is a bit horrific. That's not good. So I adjusted lash, and I've been driving it for about a month and a half now. So yeah, but we're gonna dig into it today and figure out what's really going on. Push rods were not shortened, they weren't bent. The valves are good, everything's good, so it has to be cam related or tappet related. So let's dive in, let's figure out what it is, and we're back, baby. All right, guys, we are working on the blue truck, and got the front end pretty much disassembled. That's pretty self-explanatory, probably nothing super interesting there. But we are down to some of the last bolts on the front cover. We're gonna pull the front cover off and roll the engine over to where the little holes in the cam gear, I can see back behind it hopefully, and see if my assumptions were correct. And if they are, I'm gonna have to figure something out. So I will keep you guys updated whenever we pull this cover off. Alright guys, so to catch you up here, we got the cover off here a couple minutes later, and as you can see, well, you might not be able to see as of right now, but the oil galley plug that's behind this cam gear is in there. Now my original thought was that had came out and caused it to drop some in oil pressure and wasn't properly oiling the cam, things like that. The only reason I assume that is because that has came out once before on whenever nitrous backfired real bad, and this block is the blue truck's original block that back in like 2013-ish, the back half of the cam broke off in the block. So, and I'm sure that thing was never re-line bored or anything like that. So I was not real sure about all the possibilities, but right now I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull all the valve covers, rockers, push rods, things like that, and we're going to at least try and slide the cam out a little bit to look at it and see if it's actually in real bad shape. And if not, I guess I was overthinking some things. There has been definitely a decline in oil pressure, so something is wrong somewhere along the lines, but it's really not that bad, I guess. But we're gonna go ahead and get pulling the top end apart, and I'm gonna check some of the torques on like oil pump and things like that and see what's going on. But we're making some progress. All right guys, in a short amount of time here later, got valve covers off, rockers off, push rods out, and Andy is shoving some dowels in, and hopefully we can make this go smooth, get a look at the cam. Best case scenario is that everything is cherry and I set last wrong the first time, or not the first time, but the second time after I readjusted after we got back to Missouri, because it's approximately 3 weeks after that this ordeal happened on our highway adventure. So I hadn't beaten on the truck like at all, so it had never seen RPMs that high really, or getting after it at that high of RPM. So if that's the case, great. Still a little bit concerned on where some of the oil pressure went. I mean, I am, but I'm not. I mean, it's been fine. I've driven it to Lamar. I've driven it down to the Mother Road Mayhem event in Neosho. So, I mean, it's still living, but the oil pressure is significantly less than it was, according to the dummy gauge on the dash. But it's a decent day out here, so we're trying to take advantage of it. It's probably, I mean, it feels like it's well over 80, but it says the high is 77. I'm not buying it. But we're gonna see what this entails. We'll show you guys the cam once we get it out. I'm trying to shine a flashlight in there and get a look at the lifter, or not the lifters, tappets, and go from there. Alright guys, so it's obviously a different day, and I don't know how many times I'm gonna say this, but I'm a terrible YouTuber. I didn't record the last half of that after I got the cam out. I pretty much looked at it and saw how bad it was. Insert picture here. And basically never picked up the camera again. Some buddies came over, and that's about how that ended. We threw it back together, and it's been driving. I don't know, I put a couple 100 miles on it since, but essentially, which I'm sure a couple people are gonna ask questions as to why that happened. And I don't know exactly, but I do know that Yeah, according to Evan, FR3. But back in the day, the blue truck had a cam break off in the back of the block. Now, it's only relevant because I'm using its factory block. That's the only thing in that engine that came from the blue truck from the factory, is the block, and I believe they pulled the cam out, slapped a new one in, and sent it. And it was, I mean, it was a completely stock truck. It never saw over like 2,800 RPM, yada yada. And I believe it never got line board or anything like that, so probably just had it coming. So basically the guesses were correct, except it was not the cam lobes themselves, like so it didn't ruin the tappets or anything like that, but it's basically just the cam burying itself down into the block. So still not good, very much less than ideal, very much not. The blue truck will not be making it to UCC. So we're gonna be pushing to get Andy's truck there, and then Brett is coming up next Sunday. He's gonna be bringing me parts and the 6.7 here in the background. After that, we'll go to the machine shop and get the ball rolling there. Yeah, and supposedly maybe selling my toolboxes this weekend, so that'll free up some funds for the 6.7 build, but for tonight and right now, Andy's got a couple things he's doing. He has cow tracks, which I have a couple clips of, that need to go on. He pulled the pan, but I think pulling the valve body right now. And Brutus is locked in on something, I don't know what it was. So the trains needs to come out of this. Whenever Brett's up here, I'm gonna go through it. And it needs cow tracks. The front bushings came in for the shocks. They're right here, these bad boys, Viking double adjustables. So those are very nice. Those will be going on the front now that the new bushings are here. And then after that, we'd really like to just be able to drive the thing to know if it's going to be good or not. Obviously, we are still waiting on a turbo. That has been a crapshoot, but it's in the works. But the 48 is coming out, so again. Well, I say again. It's needing to come out.
Twice.
Yeah. So, not only does Andy's need to come out, the blue trucks needs to come out. I pulled the valve body a couple weeks ago. There's a bunch of crap on top of it. Don't know what it was. A little bit more than normal, but it still will not downshift down into second on its own. It won't do it with me manually doing it either. Shifts up through the gears fine, will not downshift into second. So like when we're slowing down to the light, or at a stoplight or stop sign, it goes from third down to first. No idea why. Thrown new electronics in it, took the BD kit off of it, played around with the governor pressure modifier a ton, and the anteater went all the way down to nothing. Played with the static TV lever a lot. Yeah, nothing has fixed it. So it probably needs gone through anyway. But these are tonight's activities on what, Thursday night. I know everybody loves some driveway shitboxing. Well,
oh, I did put fluid in the transfer case. That's good.
Yeah, that's good. Well, drive shaft is out. I will roll this thing out, and then I will start.
Okay. Don't lower your third gen and then expect to work on it without a lift.
Yeah, you guys know how in probably the old videos how I could have my trans out or third gen trans out in no time because of a lift. Well, let's get you a view. Standing back here.
It's on 33s.
Yeah, this thing's on 33s, and it looks like a monster truck now because it's not on the slicks, but that is cut coils on the front, 2 leafs in the rear, and the bump stop's cut out of the rear for that reason. Yeah, it's pretty tough to get under. So we will not be pulling transmissions as fast as we once did. In fact, we're gonna have to get jack stands under this thing to get the trans out. But
I had to do that when it was just on the drop truck.
Oh dear. Alright.
Now it's an inch lower in the front too.
Where's the 15? Alright. 15. Perfect. These rockers.
What rockers?
I didn't know the inner ones were wanting to kill themselves.
Mm-hmm. You really do be like him.
Yeah, it's alright. It's alright. I just hide my rust. Andy doesn't. Blue truck has plenty of rust. Ugh. Alright, let's grab our bolts. Throw these in here. I think the goal for tonight was mainly get the valve body out, get the drive shaft out.
Alright. I had 12 millimeters.
Okay.
Oh, fuck you. Never mind. Hang on.
Everything's off over here. Oh, yeah.
Yummy. Alright, so the valve body is out and is gonna go up to see Mr. Dennis. As many of you guys know, Dennis up at Fire Punk, the valve body guy. He's got the white 3rd gen that I've taken videos of before, the quad cab, and apparently tomorrow it's supposed to rain, and then Andy's gonna be gone this weekend, and then we got all next week to get the trans out, but we're gonna probably try and get converter bolts out tonight. That way, we just gotta pull the crossmember out and undo bell housing bolts and drop this thing. But we'll see how far we get. All right, so I just got converter bolts out, and that Andy put the pan back on, so we'll be able to use the trans jack, obviously. But yeah, essentially that leaves the trans crossmember, bell housing bolts, and the dipstick, and then it'll be able to be dropped out. We gotta get this thing up in the air a little bit, so some jack stands are gonna come into play, and then the fun of getting the trans off the trans jack while it's under there and sliding it out, all that good fun. Yeah, that's where we have made it to so far today. All right, guys, so it is a Monday after work, and as I showed you those fancy Viking shocks that Andy had for the truck, the correct bushings just came in today to fit the bolt that is needed. So those are going in today, which got the wheel off and dropping them down in there. He was discussing how much of a pain in the butt it would be to adjust them while they're in the truck, which obviously you want to face it to where you can at least get to them through the coil spring. But those are going to go in, and that'll probably be, yeah, it'll eventually all go down the road now. But as for mine, I've got to do my weekly valve lash here before long. It's going to cool down a little bit. Brute's baking in the sun out here. But that's for today. That's what we're working on. I've been filming more of Andy's truck than mine lately, because I don't even want to touch mine knowing it's going to shit. So getting his closer and closer is kind of the main priority, but getting these shocks in will be another step. The rear has the same double adjustables as mine has, those Rancho cheaper units. They seem to work on mine, but there's obviously a lot more to be had, like with these nice Vikings. Which per shock, how much were the Vikings?
They're $480 shipped.
So these front two were $480 total. Obviously you're getting a very, very quality product in the Viking units. A lot of fast street trucks out there use the Viking stuff, and there's lots of write-ups about the Viking stuff for third gens, especially low ones.
6,000 pound truck.
Yeah.
Negligible, but
so let's see, like Ryan Dussel, Trent Owens with melting pistons. I know both of those, probably those guys run them.
Daddy Josh.
Yep, Daddy Josh too. He does as well. But eventually I would like to go to nice double adjustables front and rear. So I will get there one day, but I'm also focused on keeping the front axle still on mine. But these will be a nice addition, but we'll process putting these in. Okay, so Andy has finished up the other side, and he is going to give the quick rundown here, like height-wise, part number-wise, like if you want to have Vikings on the front of your truck and you're wanting to go fast, like what do you need, what's your ride height, all that good stuff.
So this truck is 2 coils cut out of the factory coil, so a little bit lower than the fire pump coils. That is the shock part number. They're like 11 7/8 extended and 9 and some change compressed, which works fine for this. You need, I don't know why this truck has 14mm lower shock mount bolts, so that's a different part number for those.
Yeah. Say I haven't paid attention on other third gens, but one thing to keep in mind, this is a 1 ton, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but it could. But the part number.
Anything else? That's the part number bushing you need.
See if it'll focus. Hold on. There we go. Yeah. So that's the bushing you'll need. Otherwise, your bolt will not fit through the bushing they send with it. Which I believe. I mean, maybe some others have stated in videos. Andy has bigger bolts. I don't know, but yeah. But that is where he's at here. Have you decided if it's going to be trans pulled next or Caltrax?
trans.
Trans will probably be easier, as you guys saw earlier. We got most of the trans stuff out the other day and a lot of stuff done there. So really now it's gonna be just pulling the cross member out and undoing the bell housing bolts and dropping it, because I've already got converter bolts, drive shaft, all that good stuff. So that is where we're at. I've been letting my truck cool off because I have zero desire to touch the hot valve covers and run lash over a hot engine. I've done it too many times in the past month, so that is where we're at. All right, so I said we would be right back after we got it pulled out. It's definitely only 5 minutes after that. But we got the trans pulled out from under the truck and the T-case taken off, so we're doing good. Andy said that Brett is bringing him an assembled overdrive housing because we don't have a spring compressor here to compress this one, the big spring that's in there. So we're gonna take off the overdrive, and then obviously we'll take it all apart, clean it up really good because it needs cleaned, and go from there. I think Andy's other plans consist of cleaning the underside of the truck, I assume, because it's pretty filthy just from random crap that's happened over time. I mean, that trans has been there how many thousand miles? 30,000. So it's due for a cleaning under there, and yeah, I think maybe tomorrow. Well, forecast all week is for rain, and it did rain today, but just not this evening. So if we can keep getting that. All right, so I said we would be right back after we got it pulled out. It's definitely only 5 minutes after that. But we got the trans pulled out from under the truck and the T-case taken off, so we're doing good. Andy said that Brett is bringing him an assembled overdrive housing because we don't have a spring compressor here to compress this one, the big spring that's in there. So we're gonna take off the overdrive, and then obviously we'll take it all apart, clean it up really good because it needs cleaned, and go from there. I think Andy's other plans consist of cleaning the underside of the truck, I assume, because it's pretty filthy just from random crap that's happened over time. I mean, that trans has been there how many thousand miles? 30,000. So it's due for a cleaning under there, and yeah, I think maybe tomorrow. Well, forecast all week is for rain, and it did rain today, but just not this evening. So if we can keep getting that, we can work on the truck in the afternoon. And then up next would technically be Caltrax, because Brett gets here this weekend. So maybe we'll do some Caltrax up next. I'm gonna end up getting to lash probably tomorrow, and my brake line for my passenger side is showing up tomorrow. Hopefully that fixes my sticky caliper situation going on. But that is going to wrap it up for pulling the trans on Andy's truck, and look out for what's coming next. And eventually we will get you guys a full overview of the truck and what it even is, because most of you guys are going to be clueless. Once we have turbo stuff situated and the truck ready to go, we'll give you more of a description on what the heck's going on. But
I am clueless,
yeah,
actually, at this point, so.
But that's where we end up for the night. We'll see you guys in the next one.